Play.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you're tuning in from. Here we are to take you through every round, every match, all the way to the final, men's and women's side of the Australian Open draw, which was done just a few hours ago. Make sure you check out Jack and I. We did a sort of a post-draw reaction live thing, if that makes sense, after the draw was announced, and we kind of made some predictions, but we didn't go into too much detail. Just kind of looked at some of the winners and losers from the draw. But here we are. As we can see, we've got the Australian Open men's draw just here and the women's draw just here on TNNS, the app to go to make your predictions. I suggest you do the same, just like I'm going to do right now, but I'm going to do it on camera. So let's start with the Australian Open women's. And of course, at the top of the draw, we have world number one, Iga Swiatek. Tough first round for her against Jule Niemeyer. But I'm going to go with Iga to progress to the next round. Below her, we've got Camila Osorio from Colombia playing against Pana Udvari. And excuse my pronunciation on that. I'm going to go for Camila in that one, partly just because I thought she did pretty well in New York last year. And I think she's got all the talent to progress. Let's go with Cristina Buska in the next one. Bianca Andreescu, by the way, I'm going to go for a return to form for her against Buskova. I know many people, including Jack, have Buskova winning that one, but I'm going for Buskova myself. Elena Rybakina, of course, the Wimbledon champion. I'll have her going through at the expense of Elisabetta Cocciaretto. Hopefully I've got that one right. Let's go for the qualifiers, Selena Jančičević in this one. And let's give some Ukrainian love for the qualified Surenko there as well. Danielle Collins, of course, last year's finalist. She lost out earlier on today in Adelaide in a pretty tough match. But I'm going to go with Danielle Collins to progress, potentially to play Iga Swiatek. But we'll be looking at that shortly. Badosa, pretty horrid 12 months for her. Nevertheless, I do see her beating McNally in the first round. Let's give a bit more Ukrainian love. If in doubt, go Ukraine is my philosophy. I'll go for Anna Bogdan from Romania. It's a great time for Romanian tennis. In fact, when hasn't it been, to be honest with you? Let's go for Ostapenko, as I'm pretty sure she will get the better of Yastremska there. Qinwen Zheng, my dark horse, is it permissible to have a seed as your dark horse? I certainly think so. She may well go far down under. Let's go for Bernardo Pera, winning there against the Japanese wildcard. Uchimja. I'm sure I'm going to get lots of criticism for this. Get in the comments below and let me know what you think about some of my pronunciation. Emma Raducanu, of course, the US Open winner from the year 2021. I have her going through at the expense of the German Tamara Korpatsch. Coco Gauff, I see her progressing as well. Jessica Pegula, of course, is in red hot form right now. I see her continuing that down under as well. Let's go with the qualifier, Fruchritova. Of course, she played Emma Raducanu recently in New Zealand. Let's have her progressing too. I'm always a fan of going for qualifiers over wildcards if in doubt, and I'm going to do so here with Kudermetova as well, Paulina Kudermetova, that is. Amanda Anisimova, I see her beating Kostyuk, but that's certainly one to look out for. Barbora Krejcikova as well, somebody who I really fancy to go far in Melbourne. I see her progressing too. If in doubt, go for the qualifier. So let's go for Clara Burel of France there. Coco, let's go for you. Van Vega, the qualifier too, at the expense of the Ukrainian Kalina. Petra Kvitova, I have her going through. Let's go with Madison Keys as well. You'll see we're going through this pretty quickly. Hopefully I don't have to justify my decisions too much. But if you have any queries, get in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let's have Wang progressing at the expense of Hunter. Tomljanovic, of course, we saw how well she did in New York last year. I certainly think she has the temperament to do well. Sofia Kenin against Azarenka. Tricky. But let's go for Kenin. Yeah, she's been in the doldrums for a couple of years now, but perhaps her form right now is actually probably the best it has been in that 2-year period. And of course, this is arguably the tie of the round with two former Australian Open winners meeting in the first round. And I'm going to go for Kenin. I'm sure many of you think Azarenka, but I'll go for Kenin in that one. Let's go Jill Teichmann at the expense of Harriet Dart. I do think that's going to be a close one, though. Let's go for Rebecca Marino as well for Canada. I think she did okay in New York too. Obviously, I'm using New York as the most recent US Open. There's been plenty of tournaments since. Let's go for Diana Schneider for the qualifier there. Maria Sakkari, by the way, many people's favourite, maybe to win the tournament as a whole. I'll have her going through too. Kasatkina, of course, making the WTA finals last year. I see her game being good enough to progress. Tatiana Maria, of course, last year's Wimbledon semi-finalist. Let's have her going through at the expense of the Italian qualifier, Stefanini. Sorana Cirstea, Romania, tennis equals success. Let's go for Pliskova in her first round match. Not too many surprises I'm going for. Maybe Kenin is the big upset, you could say, from the first round predictions. Let's go for Zhang as well. Let's go Petra Martic. And let's go for Volyanets from the US to go through after a good series of qualifiers. Kudermetova, by the way, Veronika Kudermetova, Jack's pick to get to the final, if I remember rightly from this morning's episode. I'll have her going through. Annette Kontaveit, I think it's a no-brainer to see her going through there. Let's go for Maya Sharif. That's a close one, actually. Maya Sharif, Lynette. Actually, let's go for Lynette, the Pole. I thought she was pretty good during the United Cup. But that's a tricky one, maybe the most difficult one so far to predict. Let's go for Taylor Townsend and the clash of the wildcards there against the French woman Diane Parry. And let's go for Alexandrova to progress to Romanian Begu. Let's have her going through as well. Laura Siegmund of Germany. She, of course, was in action at the United Cup as well. Oh, maybe the tie of the round. Maybe the tie of the round. I know I said that before with Kenin and Azarenka. That one or Fernandez Cornet. I'm going for Fernandez. But I think the winner of that one will end up going far. So if Cornet does go through, I've got her going out in round one. She could end up going almost all the way. I think Jack has her getting to at least the quarterfinals, for example. Let's go for, I don't know why there's a Brazilian flag there next to Caroline Garcia's name. TNNS.com, get yourselves together. She is, of course, from France. But nevertheless, whatever flag you put next to her, she's still one of the hot favourites down under, and I have her going through, as I do Sabalenka. Let's see how far I have her going in the tournament. Let's have Shelby Rogers. I had her going far in New York. Didn't work out. She lost to Ons Jabeur there, but I certainly have her getting past the first round. Lauren Davis as well. Let's go with Muguruza. Of course, she was the finalist in 2021, was it? Or 2020? 2020 when she lost out to Sofia Kenin. Let's have her going through, but that's really, you just don't know what you're going to get with Muguruza, but let's have her going through at the expense of Mertens. Martina Trevisan, one of my new favourites, of course, with that famous celebration that she did last week at the United Cup in Sydney. Let's go for Pavlyuchenkova. Barely played in the last sort of 8-9 months. But her against Camila Giorgi, another interesting matchup there. But let's go for Pavlyuchenkova. Let's go for Claire Liu to beat Brengel. Belinda Bencic, by the way, I've already been burnt with Belinda a couple of times in terms of my predictions, but I'll have her going through at least past the first round. Haddad Maia, Sloane Stephens. Let's go for Donna Vekic as well. Samsonova as well. I think many people have her going far in this tournament. Let's go with Kanepi as well. Let's go for the Australian wildcard Foulis. Vondrousova, that'll be a tough one though against Alison Risk. And Ons Jabeur. But how far will I have the Tunisian going? Well, let's have a look at the next round. Swiatek Osario, for me it's a no-brainer. Swiatek wins that, the world number one. Trying to get back on the horse, so to speak, after losing to Pegula in the United Cup. Let's go for Andreescu. That'll be a tasty third round match between those two, Swiatek and Andreescu, which I'll address in a moment. Let's go for Rybakina to win her match there. Danielle Collins as well, picking up some form. She lost in 3 sets today, but of course she was the Australian Open winner. Sorry, the Australian Open finalist a year ago. Badosa, let's have her progressing as she tries to regain some form. Ostapenko, that'll be an interesting third round between Badosa and Ostapenko, if I've got my maths right there. Let's have Zhang, as I said before. I think she's my dark horse in this tournament going through. Coco Gauff, I would have her to beat Emma Raducanu, but that would be a great clash of the teenagers in the second round should they both progress. Pegula, many people predicting her to win the whole tournament. I certainly have her getting as far as at least the third round. Anisimova 2, Krejcikova as well, Kvitova 2. Let's go with Madison Keys, but I don't see her going so far. Tomljanovic against Kenin. Tricky. Let's go for the home favourite in that one, but who knows, maybe Kenin could win that, should that matchup occur. Let's go with Rebecca Marino to upset Jill Teichmann. Maria Sakkari plows on. Kazatkina beats last year's Wimbledon semi-finals Tatiana Maria. Pliskova to beat Chostaya, but many may have Chostaya in that one. Let's go with Zhang there. Let's go with Kudermetova and Kontaveit to beat the Pole Magda Linette. Alexandrova to beat Taylor Townsend. Let's go with Begu there. Let's go, Leylah Fernandez, Caroline Garcia. Do I go with my heart or do I go with my head? I'm going heart. Leylah Fernandez to beat Caroline Garcia. Sabalenka to beat Shelby Rogers, but that's a really good matchup, I would suggest. Let's go with Muguruza to plough on past Lauren Davies. Let's go with Trevisan to beat the French Open finalist of 2021, Pavlyuchenkova. Bencic. Notice, by the way, how I have problems with 2021, 2020 and 2022. I have no idea what year it is sometimes. That's a good one. Hadad Maia against Sloane Stephens. I'll go with Hadad Maia to emerge there. I'll have Samsonova and Kanepi to plough on. Of course, Kanepi, I think she got to the quarterfinals in Melbourne last year. See if she can repeat that this year. Onjabeur Vondrousova. Vondrousova to upset the world number 2 and 2-time Slam finalist last year. What do you think about that? I've got to take a risk somewhere. Let's take it there. Okay, next round, Bianca wins. Danielle Collins to continue to see how she gets on, see if she can gain some revenge or even repeat her trick from last year by beating Swiatek again, but we'll discuss that in a second. Let's go with Ostapenko, 17 seed over Badosa, number 11. As I say, Badosa's form, she's been scratching around for about a year. Let's go with Coco Gauff as she looks to repeat her quarterfinal appearance at the US Open. Let's go with Pegula over Anisimova. Let's go for Krejcikova over Kvitova. Madison Keys as well. No, let's go for Tomljanovic, the home favourite. Let's go for a slight upset there. Sakkari over Marino. Maybe I'm putting Sakkari too far, many of you might be thinking. Don't know, maybe others have her going very far. Kazatkina, Pliskova. I'm going to go with Pliskova. I know, many of us have been burnt with Pliskova before, but let's go with it. Kudermetova to beat Zhang. Let's have Kontaveit or Alexandrova. Alexandrova to win that one. Leylah Fernandez to beat Begu. That's not the heart, that's the head and the heart. Let's go with Sabalenka. That'll be an unbelievable clash should it happen. Sabalenka and Muguruza trying to hit each other off the court. But let's go with Sabalenka. Again, many people will have her going far in this tournament, perhaps even winning it. Let's see. Bencic to beat Trevisan. Let's go with Hadad Maia to beat Samsonova. And I will go with Vondrousova to beat Kai Kanepi. I always remember the tennis podcast having fun with Matt's prediction on her a couple of years ago. Anyway, Iga against Danielle Collins. I have Iga exacting her revenge for last year's semi-final. Let's go with Coco Gauff again to make a quarter-final of a major, beating Ostapenko, but that'll be tough. I'm going to go with Krejcikova to beat Jessica Pegula. Maybe the biggest shock of all my predictions so far. I just see that happening. I've got big thoughts on Krejcikova this year. She may even challenge top 5 and maybe even more. Sakkari to beat Tomljanovic, but that'll be tough, especially, Maria will have her own support in Melbourne, of course, with so many Greeks living there. Pliskova, Kudermetova. Let's go with Kudermetova for that one. Let's go with Leylah Fernandez to keep going. We'll see how far I have her going. Sabalenka, Bencic. Winner of this could well go on to win the tournament. I'm going to go with Sabalenka. She's in great form. And I'll have Hadad Maia to bring Vondrousova's run to an end. We're getting near the end now of the women's side at the very least. Iga, Coco. Iga wins that, I'm afraid, every day for me, certainly at a Grand Slam quarterfinal. Krejcikova, Sakkari. What do we think of my quarterfinals, by the way? Get in the comments below. Iga against Coco, Barbora, Maria, Kudermetova, Leylah, and Sabalenka had admire. What do we think about that quarterfinal lineup? Do let me know. Get in the comments below. And don't forget that hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So anyway, Iga progressing. Sorry, Sakkari fans. I'm having Krejcikova progress too. And I'm going to go with Layla over Kudermetova. Yes, I know. And I'll have Sabalenka beating the Brazilian Haddad Maia. Now I've got my semi-finals. What are your semi-finals? Again, let me know in the comments below. You can always tweet us as well at Talking Tennis TT with your thoughts. And I'm going to go with a Krejcikova Sabalenka final. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? What do we think of this for a women's final? Maybe some of you might think I'm crazy, perhaps having Krejcikova number 20 seed going so far. But I do think many of us will have Sabalenka at least getting to the semi-finals and probably many more having her in the final. And you know what? Let's have Arina Sabalenka as this year's Australian Open champion. Over to the men's side. What have we got going on here? The top of the draw, of course, last year's champion and 22-time Grand Slam winner, Rafael Nadal. I was chatting to Jack about this earlier. Could it have been any more difficult for the Spaniard in the opening round? I would argue no. Jack Draper's in pretty good form. Possibly the best player outside the 32 seeds. Rafael Nadal as well had a practice match this morning against Hurkacz in which he lost, by the way, the practice match. And he is on a bit of a bad streak in terms of losses. Nevertheless, I am going to have experience over youth and go with Nadal to progress. Nakashima, I see him beating McDonald. He's been scratching around for a bit of form of late, but I certainly think Nakashima has all the capabilities of being his compatriot. So I have him playing Nadal in the next round. Let's go with Jaime Munar to overcome the qualifier Svechina there of the Czech Republic. Nishioka, I believe, will beat the Swede Ymer. And I'll have Khachanov to see off the Spaniard Zapata Miralles there. Sebastian Baez as well, really struggling for form. I'm sure Kubler will fancy his chances. And I tell you what, let's have the home favourite knocking out the Argentinian. Sorry, Jethro. Oscar Otter, I believe, actually could well overcome the qualifier Shang. No, let's go for the qualifier on that one. I'll be speaking probably to Damien in the next day or so about the qualifiers. We'll be doing an episode on that to see which qualifiers he thinks will go far. And perhaps I should have done these predictions after that show. But listen, I like to take a risk. Not an Allison risk, though. Okay, Altmaier against Tiafoe. Tiafoe, of course, going to the semi-finals in the US Open in September. Do you think he can repeat that? If you agree with this prediction, do you think he'll go that far? Let me know in the comments below. Let's have Hurkacz, the aforementioned player who played a practice match with Nadal today. Let's have him beating the Spaniard Pedro Martinez. Let's have Lorenzo Sonego. Sonego? I don't know why I went all posh on you there. Apologies for that. Let's go with the qualifier Escobedo to see off the Japanese player Taro Daniel. Shapovalov. Can he overcome the jitters? Can he go beyond the quarterfinal stage that he reached last year in Australia? In form, Sebastian Korda, definitely to beat the clay court Christian Garin, clay court specialist Christian Garin, although you might argue a grass court specialist too, given his performances at Wimbledon. Let's get down here and let's go with Artur Rinderknecht to get past the first round. I actually have Husler to beat Millman, but you never know on home territory. Millman may well emerge the victor in that one. But Husler, of course, picking up his first title last year, and I think he could be on for another step forward this year. Daniil Medvedev, last year's finalist and US Open title winner in 2021. See how I got the year right on that occasion. I have him to overcome Marcos Giron. Tsitsipas. Some people are tipping Tsitsipas to get to the final or maybe even beyond. Well, I certainly think he'll overcome Quinton Hallis, but maybe not with so much ease. May well drop a set. Of course, Hallis pushing Djokovic last week in Adelaide. Let's go with Hanfmann. Well done there for qualifying over Hijikata. Hijikata from Australia, of course. Hijikata, of course, played last year against Rafa Nadal in the first round. Pushed Rafa a little bit, probably a lot bit more than many thought he would have done. But of course, Hanfmann, of course, played Nadal in the Australian Open last year. So let's have him progressing. Let's have Griekspoor over the lucky loser Kotov. Let's have Von der Schlandschluck beating Ilya Ivashka, but that one could go either way for sure. That could well end up being 5 sets. Lloyd Harris, of course, injury plagued over the last year or two, Lloyd Harris, but let's have Musetti winning against him, presuming that Musetti is fit. Of course, I think he picked up an injury recently too at the United Cup. Marton Fucsovics as well. It doesn't say so here, but he won, of course, recently in Canberra. He won a challenger tournament there. And he tends to do well on the hard court. So let's have him beating Argentina's Federico Correa. Let's have Argentinian Echeverri to see off the Frenchman Barrère. Yannick Sinner to beat another player that's been injury plagued as well, Carl Edmund. Again, there's some injury concerns over Yannick Sinner. I think a fit and firing Yannick Sinner is what we all want to see back on the tour ASAP, because I think as soon as that happens, he'll be challenging very much. Cam Norrie, very much in form, and certainly would have him beating the wildcard Luca Van Asch there from France. Let's go with Thiago Monteiro, the Brazilian, and let's go with Eubanks over Sunwoo Kwon and Borna Coric to beat Lehecka. But Lehecka, of course, did recently beat Alexander Zverev, so who knows about that one. But Borna Coric will be lurking should the match against Tsitsipas take place. They are in the same part of the draw, so they may well meet early on in the tournament. Let's have Cerundolo to beat Pella. Let's have Moutet to beat the wildcard Wu. Let's have Stan Wawrinka rolling back the years and knocking out Alex Molcan. Pospisil, that's a really tricky one for Felix in the first round. Nevertheless, I do expect Felix to emerge, but may well drop a set. Oh, I'm going to upset Jeffo once again. I'm going to go with Rublev over Thiem, but this one, who knows? And it could go 5. That would be exciting. I remember Thiem, of course, playing really well last year in the first round in New York. So I do think there's some optimism regarding Dominic Thiem. That was in a match, by the way, against Pablo Carreño Busta. And I've seen some shoots of recovery there, but it might just be a bit too soon for him to have a deep run in Australia. Let's have Ruusuvuori emerging over the Australian qualifier, Max Purcell. Daniel Galán, of course, knocked out Tsitsipas in the first round in New York. Let's have him overcoming the Frenchman Jeremy Chardy. Daniel Evans to knock out Facundo Bagnis, but that could go either way, but I will have the Brit progressing. Nick Kyrgios to beat Safiullin. Of course, Safiullin went out very painfully last year in the qualifiers to friend of the show, Liam Brody, despite being a set and a break up. Anyway, I have him going out to Nick Kyrgios, but that's kind of interesting because, of course, Kyrgios played Brody in the first round last year. Let's go with... I love Gasquet, but I'm going to go with Hugo Humbert to win that one. But that one could go either way. Maxime Cressy, of course, our serve volley friend from the States. Let's have him progressing at the expense of Ramos Vinolas. Holger Rune. How far do you have Holger Rune going in this tournament? Let me know in the comments below. You can also follow us on Facebook or on Twitter and let us know your predictions there. Let's go with Holger Rune, though, to beat Krajinovic. Carreño Busta against Kashin. Let's go with PCB for that one. Those of you wondering where is Novak Djokovic, be patient. We're about to come to him. He's not pulled out through a hamstring injury or being deported this year as he was last. Let's go with the qualifier Bellucci from Italy over Benjamin Bonzi of France. John Isner, Adrian Mannarino. Is that an upset to say Mannarino will beat John Isner? Not sure. Don't forget to check out our little clip of Mannarino doing an unbelievable shot, by the way, on my short section. Shot of the year, I suggested it may have been, even if it was in the last couple of days of 2022. De Minaur beating Rafael Nadal recently in the United Cup. Let's have him progressing. Dimitrov against Karatsev. Karatsev, of course, getting to the semi-finals here in 2021. I think I've got that right. Got to the semi-finals that year, unseeded then, unseeded again. He has dropped somewhat from his lofty position a year or two ago. And really scratching for form as well. He did pick up a win or two in India recently, but let's go with Dimitrov emerging as the winner there. Laszlo Djere, let's have him beating the qualifier Bergs. Let's go with Hugo Dellien to beat the French qualifier Enzo Coucou. I hope I've got that one right. A slightly easier one for me to pronounce, Roberto Carballes Baena. An even easier one perhaps against Novak Djokovic, and even easier to predict who's winning that one. Taylor Fritz against Balasashvili. Let's go with Taylor Fritz. I think he's due a good major tournament. Let's go with Alex Popyrin, the wildcard, to overcome Chu Sin Sen. Let's have Zhizhen Zhang to beat Ben Shelton, but many I'm sure would have the American to emerge winner there. Let's go with Kecmanovic to win his first round match. I believe it was Kecmanovic who really benefited a lot last year from Djokovic's absence, because I think they would have played each other had Djokovic been allowed to play. I'm going to have to go for the qualifier here, just because Schwartzman, there's a huge doubt about his participation in terms of fitness. This could end up being somebody else, could well be a lucky loser. And so let's have the Ukrainian qualifier, Krutik, going through. Ukrainians, let me know in the live chat about that pronunciation there. But at least I've got him going through. And by the way, Oleksiy, how about that? Let's call him Oleksiy for my sake. Maybe a little bit easier, but still probably wrong. Let's have Jeffrey John Wolf. Let's have him beating Thompson in the battle of something. David Goffin, let's have him progressing as well. Alex Zverev against lucky loser. I think he's pretty lucky with that draw, because Alex Zverev certainly would be on upset alert perhaps, but perhaps it's maybe not such a big upset given his injury troubles since the French Open. But let's have him beating the Peruvian Juan Pablo Barrias. Peruvians as well, if I'm mispronouncing that name, let me know, or anyone else can let me know. Sorry, fans of Andy Murray, Jack et al. I'm going with Berrettini to beat the Scot, or the Brit, whatever you prefer, but could well drop a set. But I think Berrettini's just starting to purr right now and just starting to return to form. Did you like the cat reference there, Mario? Okay, Kokkinakis on home territory. We remember him doing so well in Adelaide last year, and then arguably was burnt out by the time he got to Melbourne. Let's see if that's the same again this year, but I believe he will overcome Fabio Fognini, who the burning embers of light, if that is even such a phrase, may just be starting to fade out as he gets older. Let's go with Brandon Holt to overcome Vukic, the battle of the qualifiers there. Let's go with RBA as well to emerge over João Sousa, the Portuguese player. And let's go with, that's a really interesting first round, but I've seen a few people tweeting about this today. Davidovich Fokino against Bublik, could well be a few fireworks there, get the popcorn out for that, but I'm going to go for the Spaniard to go through. Jan-Lennard Struff, by the way, qualifying in pretty good form, I would suggest, and I'm looking forward to speaking to Damien about him. He overcome, of course, Emilio Gomez, who was the victor over Liam Brody, friend of the show. Did I tell you he was a friend of the show? He's never been on, by the way, just his coach, but whatever, by proxy. Anyway, against Tommy Paul. Let's go with an upset there, and let's go for Jan-Lennard Struff. Excellent form, as I say, in the qualifiers to get this far. Jensen Brooksby and Casper Ruud round out my first round. Second round, Nadal Nakashima. I think if he gets through against Draper, he will beat Nakashima, but maybe some of you disagree. Jaime Munar against Nishioka. Let's have Nishioka to get through. I think in a way, perhaps for Nadal, it gets a little easier with each round from rounds 1 to 3. Am I wrong on that? Let me know, but I think it probably does, with obviously looking at a Nishioka round 3 clash. Khachanov, Kubler. Let's go with Khachanov. And let's go with Tiafoe to beat Shang. Let's go with Hurkacz to beat Sonego, and Shapovalov to beat the qualifier Escobedo of the US. Sebastian Korda, of course, getting so close to that title in Adelaide last week. Against Djokovic, of course, having match points in that match. I have him on course for a third round clash with Daniil Medvedev. Let me know what you think about that. That'll be very exciting, should it come to fruition. Tsitsipas beating Hanfman. I think that's a fairly easy one for me to predict. Let's go with Botic van der Zandschulp in the Battle of the Netherlands there. In the second round there, I would have Van der Zandschulp beating Griekspoor, but could go either way. Let's go with Musetti over the Hungarian Fucsovics, and let's go with Jannik Sinner, as long as he's fit, to get to the third round. Cam Norrie, let's go with him over Thiago Montero, and I will go with Borna Coric. That'll be an interesting one. Coric against Norrie, as they battle it out potentially to beat Stefanos Tsitsipas. Meet, not necessarily beat. Let's go with Mutet to beat Cerundolo. Don't know why. Felix to beat San. Probably a step too far, perhaps, for the Swiss. But I do think he's going to have at least one last good year on tour this year. Rublev, boy, oh boy, his form is really not great, but he's probably got a fortunate draw. I'm going to have him and Dan Evans to meet in the third round. But Ruusuvuori won't be easy, but I do think Rublev is probably a little fortunate with his draw, in my opinion, because he was certainly vulnerable otherwise. Nick Kyrgios, I have him, of course, progressing, and Holger Rune, arguably the tie of the third round, should it come to fruition. Poor Maxime Cressy, his serve volley game doesn't upset the Dane. PCB, of course, could well end up playing Novak Djokovic. We'll be seeing Djokovic's name again shortly. PCB to progress. Alex de Minaur as well on home territory. Let's go with Dimitrov and Djokovic there to round out that section of the draw. Going down now, Taylor Fritz. Do you have Taylor Fritz getting to the final? Do you have Taylor Fritz winning the tournament? Let me know in the comments below. I have him certainly being Popperin, but you never know. Let's go with Kecmanovic over Zhang. Let's go with JJ Wolf to knock out the Ukrainian qualifier Krutik. Oleksiy Krutik. Apologies. Anyway, let's go on. At least I won't have to say his name again because I've gone for JJ Wolf. I got that one right. Okay, at least I've got the name right. I might not have the prediction right, but we'll see. David Goffin against Zverev. Let's go with Goffin to win that one. Yeah, I just think this tournament may just be sort of the first step for Zverev. We might not see his best tennis for another 6 months or so. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments below. Matteo Berrettini will beat Kokkinakis to upset the Australian home crowd. But there's plenty of Italians, of course, down under too, so I'm sure Berrettini won't be short of support. Let's go with Brandon Holt to upset the 24 seed Roberto Bautista Agut. And let's go with Jan-Lennard Struff to continue his fine form throughout qualifying and into the Open itself by beating Davidovich Fokina. I just called it the Open. Many people call that the US Open, the Open, but whatever. Casper Ruud, let's have him beating Brooksby as well as we progress. Rafa Nadal, I would say, yes, he will beat Nishioka, but many maybe already have him out before this stage, but he will be on course for a rematch with Francis Tiafoe. Let's go with Shapo to beat Hurkacz and Sebastian Korda to upset Daniil Medvedev. His miserable 12 months continues in my eyes. Tsitsipas will win that against Van der Zandschulp, and I see a rematch potentially with Jannik Sinner. Of course, they played in the Australian Open a year ago. Let's see how that one pans out, should it come to fruition. Cam Norrie, Borna Coric, really tricky. Let's go with Cam Norrie in that one, and let's go with Felix as well. Oh, Rublev, you lucky boy, in my opinion. You're going to progress in that match. But let's go with Holger Rune to beat Kyrgios. Many people will disagree with me on this one, but I just think Rune has just got it. But let's see. Although all depends on his form, I think, because Rune has barely played since November, since sort of Paris-Bercy, really. And of course, he's only had one match since coming back this year anyway. And that match he lost in 3 tight sets. But listen, once he picks up some form, I have him progressing. Pablo Carreño Busta, Alex de Minaur. Let's go with de Minaur to win that one. And Djokovic to overcome Dimitrov in arguably his first real test of the tournament. Taylor Fritz, I have against Kecmanovic. I would suggest Taylor Fritz will win that one with consummate ease. And let's have JJ Wolf beating David Goffin. Don't know why. Berrettini will overcome the qualifier Brandon Holt. And Casper Ruud brings Struff's form to an end. And again, I would say Casper Ruud may be a little fortunate with his draw, but then perhaps you afforded that fortune if you are the number 2 seed. Okay, next round of 16. It's a repeat of New York. Repeat, whatever. Maybe I wanted to emphasize that. Nadal against Tiafoe. Shapovalov quarter. This is looking pretty tasty, by the way, should this come to fruition. This is just the round of 16. Cam Norrie, Felix, Ruby, Rune, De Minaur, Djokovic. JJ Wolf maybe is the standout name there in terms of not being seeded at least. But listen, I'm going to have Francis Tiafoe to repeat the feat he did, do you like that? That he did in New York by overcoming Rafael Nadal in the 4th round. Ciao to the 22-time Grand Slam winner. Shapovalov, I would say, to beat... no, let's go with Sebi Korda to win that one. Tsitsipas to beat Sinner, just as he did a year ago. I will also have... Let's have Felix to beat Cam Norrie. I'm sure many would disagree with that. Holger Rune to end Rublev's dreams. Djokovic to beat the home favourite De Minaur. Taylor Fritz to overcome JJ Wolf. And Matteo Berrettini to gain revenge for his loss in New York over Casper Ruud. What do we think of my quarterfinal lineup? Let me know, get in the comments below, or tweet me at TalkingTennisTT. This is my quarterfinal lineup. Be interested to know what you think. Let's go with Sebi Korda to beat Tiafoe in the All-American clash there. Tsitsipas to beat Felix. Djokovic to overcome Rune, but perhaps in 5 sets. Perhaps going 2 sets to 1 down as he did in Paris-Bercy. And let's go with Taylor Fritz to beat Matteo Berrettini. And now we have my semi-final lineup for the Australian Open. Sebi Korda against Stefanos Tsitsipas. Tsitsipas slightly more experienced than his opponent. I see him getting to his first Australian Open final, his first hardcourt major final. And he will end up playing, in my opinion, Novak Djokovic. May well need 5 sets once again over Taylor Fritz. That'll be really close. I know that Craig O'Shaughnessy is really excited about Taylor Fritz this year, and in particular, his possibilities of overcoming Novak Djokovic was quite close really in Turin. Okay. Here's my final. I'm sure many of you have the same final. If you have something different, do let me know, either on Twitter, on Facebook, wherever you can get hold of me at TalkingTennisTT. Tsitsipas, Djokovic. I will have Djokovic in 4 sets to win his 10th Australian Open crown. I'm going to bring this now to an end. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And I'm going to breathe. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.